Wait for it. We are live. Way fantastic. It has been such a long time since we've been able to get together. But welcome everybody to Lunch and Learn. We're back. Happy New Year to you all. Make yourselves louder just so that we can test if they can actually hear us. Everyone go, "Hey!"
Hey.
There we go. So when we play it back, we'll see if anyone was able to actually hear that. So welcome everybody to the first Lunch and Learn of 5782 Shana Tova. Wishing you all a happy and healthy, sweet and blessed year. And it's so great to be back with our friends on Lunch and Learn. So we are coming towards the end of the Torah reading cycle. Because in just a couple of short weeks, it's going to be Simchat Torah when we complete the cycle of laning. And I will have the privilege of reading that laning in Bushi Shul this year as the recipient of the Chatan Torah award. You don't call it an award. What would you call it? The honor of being recognized as the Chatan Torah, along with my fellow Chatan Jonathan Calms, who truly deserves it. They're just doing it because I'm a rabbi, But Jonathan Calms really deserves it. So it's exciting, and we've got the Neshei Chayil as well, my dear wife, and Amanda Robeson. So if you're watching this, guys, to the whole Busher community, you are all welcome to come and join us and celebrate on Simchat Torah if you weren't already planning to do so anyway. Okay, so Parshat Vayelech, it's only very, very tiny. It's 30 verses, and we will blitz through it on Shabbat. And we're drawing ever closer to the end of Moshe Rabbeinu's life. As we know, the Torah finishes with the passing of Moses, of Moshe, and then the Jews will head on into the land of Israel. So we're getting closer and closer, and these are some of his final words.
Was there a reason why the Torah suddenly finished at Moses' death?
Is there a reason?
I thought that it was very exciting that the Israelites were now in the Promised Land, and that there was actually a whole. You would have thought there was no shortage of lessons to be learned and things to be done, and things to be written about, history to be written.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it stops very abruptly, and I have no idea what happened to the tribes, unless I look at it from a historical point of view, which is a shame.
Well, the story does continue, but it continues in the book of Joshua. And then from there it continues into the book of, what comes next? Shoftim. And then from there into the book of...
Is it written in the same...
In some ways, yes.
It's not written in the
yes.
same way.
Yeah, no, in many ways...
That makes any sense.
In many ways it is. In many ways it is written in a similar kind of way. But the primary difference is that as far as the giving of mitzvot, of commandments, biblical laws, that's all contained within the text of the Torah, of the 5 books of Moses. So even though there is a level of divine influence into the composition of the books of the Bible, the books of the prophets and the books of the Ketuvim, the writings, it's not the code, as it were, that was given to Moshe at Mount Sinai. It's not the mitzvot. So the story very much does continue, and it's all legit. But in terms of the transmission of mitzvot, that is contained within the 5 books of Moses.
I suppose what I'm saying is it's also there's so much more in it's so different to me in the way it's written, in the way it's in what they're saying, in the way that it's said. Whereas originally you've got Moses, you've got a story there which is so, I don't know, maybe meaningful or very easy to put over. You know, you have Pesach, you have a lot of things there which are going on, which are very down to earth and people relate to. Maybe, yeah, maybe it's the relating to. Maybe people relate to it more. The traveling through the desert, the leaving of Egypt, the coming down to Egypt from. The first bit seems to be much more read.
Perhaps, well, yes. I think that's largely what it's down to, isn't it? I think as far as our educational system goes, it's interesting that you mentioned this,
I
Paul,
think
by the
that
way.
must be what I'm thinking of.
It's very interesting that you mentioned this. But you know, as far as the educational system goes, it prioritizes the learning of Chumash. You know, the weekly Torah readings in shul goes through the same cycle of the Torah each year, and so um, we're all going on that journey together every single year. Hello, Rita. Hello, Peter. We're going on that journey every single year, so we're always drawing on the same pieces and the same lessons, and you know, it's
and going deeper into them.
yeah, and part of the
Yes,
beauty of it, and this is the same with other kind of shared learning um, platforms, is that wherever you are in the world, you'll walk into a shul on Shabbos morning and you'll all be reading the same piece wherever you are. So there's a unifying factor to the way in which we progress through the Chumash on a cycle every single year, which is very mainstream, completely mainstream. And so those are the stories and those are the sources and those are the texts that we feel most at home with because it's the ones that we see all of the time. There is a glaring need as a whole Jewish nation really to invest more in the study of the rest of it as well. It doesn't receive the same attention. There's no cycle that's built into the Jewish calendar. Certainly not universally, and so it requires initiative. The person needs to take the initiative to put themselves into it. You know, we do have the Haftarah that we read, and all the pieces of the Haftarah are lifted from Nevi'im and Ketur, or Nevi'im, but it's not bigger than that. It doesn't go through everything. There's hundreds and hundreds of chapters of Nevi'im, and we never see them. You know, there's a whole book of Tehillim which is part of the Bible, of Psalms, 150 chapters. Unless someone actually opens it up and starts reading it, they won't see it. They'll see it in their Siddur because we take bits of it and put it there, and you know all the rest of it. But you're right. We don't have the same.
Don't see it in the same sense.
Yeah, and we don't see the bigger picture of it. We don't see the story continuing. We just get little snapshots and glimpses here and there. So yeah, it is a problem. I was actually hoping to launch a what do you call it? A learning cycle of emails, WhatsApp messages, and we were going to do a chapter a day, starting from Bereshit, but working our way through Nevi'im and Ketuvim as well. And I wanted to launch that at Rosh Hashanah, but I didn't have enough in the bank to guarantee that I would, you know, keep it going. So I'm going to get a bit more done, and then when I've got it all, when I've got a bit more done, then I know that I can launch it and not have to worry that I'm going to end up playing catch up and losing, you know, losing track. But I'm trying to do it so that we read a chapter a day, and then there's a summary, and then a short insight, and there you go. In 5 minutes each day, you could read a chapter, and then have a bit more of an overview of all of these books, which I think would be an amazing thing as a community for us to be able to do. So it is in the pipeline. It's not ready yet, unfortunately. I mean, the material's there. You can just open it and read it if you want, chapter a day, and you'll be laughing. If you bought, I don't know if you did actually, but if you ordered one of the Tanakhs from Divrei Kodesh before the bigger picture, you've got it there waiting. A page a day, chapter a day, and you know, within 100 days, you'd have gone through the first couple of books. So it's just initiative, it's perseverance, it's intrigue, it's interest, to just want to look at these things. So I agree. We are very what's the word? Not illiterate, but we're just not clued in enough nationally to the rest of the stories. But there's loads out there. So yeah, okay. Let's leave it there. That's the parasha in a nutshell.
Yep.
It's only 30 verses this week, so go ahead and read it. That's the summary. And it's Yom Kippur next week as well, guys. Don't forget to fix all of your relationships and apologize to all of your friends. It's just not worth. It's just not worth the pain of being in people's bad books and having people in your bad books. We will be much better and do much better if we are all united and we all forgive each other. As I always say to my kids, even if you're right, you might be wrong. Sometimes to stick by your principles just because you think that you're right doesn't always win the day. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a little look at Pirkei Avot for this week. For the first time this year. Unbelievable. We're going to get it up on the screen. Everyone should be able to see that. And what a Mishnah we've got for you today, ladies and gentlemen, with the Kol Nidre appeal right on our doorstep in just a few days' time. Let's take a look at chapter 5, Mishnah 16 on my book. And I think it's like Mishnah, I don't know, 10, 13? What does it say there? 13. Mishnah 13 on the screen. Who would like to read it for us?
Can I do it?
Go for it.
There are 4 types of charity givers. He who wishes to give, but that others should not give. His eyes eat. Oh, I can't see it now because you.
No, you can't. No, it's.
What have I just done?
I can't see. It's gone very small. It's gone very small.
There we go.
So
That's
that's
Yeah. Sorry. He who wishes to give, but that others should not give. His eye is evil to that which belongs to others. He who wishes that others should give, but that he himself should not give. His eye is evil towards that which is his own. He who desires that he himself should give, and that others should give, he is a pious man. He who desires that he himself should not give, and that others too should not give, he is a wicked man.
So we've had a few Mishnayot, where we've been talking about 4 different types of X, Y, Z. And there was always 2 polar extremes. And then in the middle, there's always a bit of loss to offset the gain, or gain to offset the loss. So we've previously seen 4 types of students, 4 types of temperament, 4 types of attitudes to giving and to sharing. So this is 4 types of donors to charity, 4 types of charity givers. One interesting thing, by the way, before we kind of really get started, if we pay attention to the positioning of this Mishnah, okay, the Mishnah before talked about 4 types of students. The following Mishnah is going to talk about the 4 types of people and their relationship to the Beit Midrash, to the house of study, their attitude, as it were, to studying Torah. So in the middle of the students and the study house, you have this Mishnah which talks about the donors to charity. And there's a very beautiful explanation for this, or 2 very beautiful insights to this. Number 1 is that we're trying to demonstrate the value of supporting Torah study, not just the importance of Torah study, but also the importance of supporting Torah study, because you have this Mishnah about the tzedakah that's needed to maintain these institutions and these students. So that's smack bang in the middle of it. But there's another amazing insight, which is from a commentary called the Midrash Shmuel, who says that there is a same level in terms of the special reward for one who studies. There is a commensurate reward given to people who support institutions of study and who support students of Torah. So it's an amazing thing to be able to see this in the way that it's structured in the chapter of the Mishnah itself, which is that sandwiched in between the students and the places of study, you have a Mishnah about the people who give the money to support and how important it is to support and how much reward there is for people who support. Famously, we talk about the relationship between two of the tribes, Zevulun and Yissachar. Zevulun was a very, very wealthy, business-minded tribe. Yissachar were very studious. And there was a famous deal that was struck between these two tribes where Zevulun said, we will pay for you guys to sit and to learn. We will go out and do business and earn lots of money so that you can do that. But we want to have some of the reward that you have because we are supporting and enabling your Torah study to occur. So there becomes a continued attachment to this. It's known as the Zevulun Yissachar relationship, that those who support the institutions of Torah study or the students of Torah study and those that study themselves, it becomes known as a Zevulun Yissachar partnership because of these two tribes. And it's an amazing thing. And it continues to this day, not necessarily the direct descendants of those tribes, but the attitude that people have, where some people are more geared towards a successful commercial business life. Others are more suited to the academic studious approach. And so the Zevuluns continue to support the Yissachars, even though they're not directly descended from those tribes. The relationship of supporting is known as a Zevulun Yissachar relationship. And I mean, you still see now in the Kollel world, the families that support their sons or their sons-in-law to be able to go and spend some time in yeshiva. That's also part of this relationship. The people who give enormous amounts of money to maintain the schools, the chadarim, the high schools, the yeshivas, the seminaries, all of this is all part of that picture. This mission doesn't have to specifically be about charity towards study institutions, but it's just picked up on that it's strategically placed in between those two other Mishnayot. So there we go. Give you all a second to read through it, and you can let me know what you think. Any comments or questions?
There's another passage, isn't there, about giving to charity, about giving and being anonymous and or wanting yourself to be lauded about. I can't remember the quote. In fact, I think it comes sometime at this time of the year. I've always really, really liked that. It's always sort of said something to me.
Yes, that is. It could be that you're referring to Maimonides. Maimonides, the Rambam, talks about 8 levels of giving, and it starts from providing financial stability and financial security to somebody, or empowering them to earn their own money, giving them the net instead of just the fish. Give a man a fish, it feeds him for a day. Give him a net, and he can feed himself and his family. So that's the best way in which we can give to enable somebody to be financially stable, financially secure. And then there are other levels, such as giving anonymously to a poor person, and they don't know who you are, and you don't know who they are. And then it continues a bit less than that you know who you're giving to, but they don't know who you are. Or where you don't know who you're giving to, but they know who you are, or when you give to a poor person but you haven't been asked, giving to a poor person after you have been asked, giving a small amount but you do it with a smile, and then all the way down to the bottom where you don't really want to give them and you begrudgingly give someone some money where you've still done a mitzvah but you just haven't done it in the best way. So yeah, that's Maimonides I mean, we could spend a whole class talking about that as well.
I remember.
But that's the 8 levels of giving. So yes, well picked up on there, Joy. You've been paying attention to all of your different sermons and all your different Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Kol Nidre drushes. So yeah.
How do you define this? His eye is evil.
Very good. Okay, so let's we
Just
can
define that for us.
we will do. We'll look at the Hebrew as well to be able to do that. Any other comments or questions? Rita, you may be trying to say something, but unfortunately you're muted. So you need to unmute yourself so we can hear you, Rita. Let me do this. Is it coming up on the screen for you to unmute if I do that? Excellent.
Yeah, perfect. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Just Paul said about the evil eye. I'm just saying as well, he's a wicked man.
At the end there.
At the end.
The last clause. He doesn't want to give any money, and he doesn't want anyone else to give either. So he is called.
To give any money, he's a wicked man. So it's quite harsh as well.
Quite harsh as well. So let's start picking these apart, shall we? So Arba Midot Benotnei Tzedakah. Have we used? Yes, we've had Midot before. All these last Mishnayot have been Arba Midot. 4 types of traits that we find within the givers of tzedakah. So let's go through them. Harotzeh sheyitain velo yitnu acherim. He wants that he should give. He wishes to give, but he doesn't want others. Velo yitnu acherim. He doesn't want others to give. So eino ra'ah b'shel acherim. It says on the screen that his eye is evil to that which belongs to others. So put another way, perhaps we could say he begrudges others from being able to give. It's almost like he's trying to keep all of the glory and the opportunity for himself. So he wants that everyone should know that he's the big macha. If you want money, you come to me. Don't go to them. Don't go to them. I'll give you everything you need. It's amazing what he's doing because he's giving loads of money to tzedakah, but he's also causing a situation where others don't have the opportunity to also do a mitzvah. So there's a trace of something wrong there. Even though he is amazingly generous and philanthropic, it's not a great thing to deprive. First of all, you're depriving other people from giving, but you're also depriving potentially poor people from receiving, because your money will only go so far. And you may know of another guy who could give another $1,000 or $2,000 or $100,000 or whatever it might be, but you're trying to, keep that for yourself, and so others lose out because you're not giving the opportunity for others to give. So that's one type. Does that help us understand what it means that his eye is evil? So that's our first guy. Our second guy is Yitnu Acherim V'hu Lo Yitain. He's very happy to say, oh, well, yeah, there's this guy, Paul Fabian. I'll give you his phone number. He's good for a few quid. And Rita, just up the road, you'll get a bit out of her. Joy, I don't know. Pardon me?
Rita, she's got more chance with Rita.
So you'll have people who don't really want to have to give their own money, but they'll quite happily nominate Paul Fabian to give a few quid. So over there it's also amazing because you're connecting people to potential donors. You're connecting them to other streams of income, but you're missing out on the opportunity to be able to give as well. So that's why Eino Ra'ah B'Shelo, the evil eye is towards you. you're begrudging yourself of the amazing opportunity to give tzedakah. So it's lovely that you are empowering and enabling money to be donated, but you're missing out on that opportunity to give yourself. Then you've got Yitain V'yitnu Acherim Chasid. You've got the pious person is the one who gives, and he also encourages others to give, and gets the network going of Jewish philanthropists. And in so doing, you really lift everyone and lift every situation and create a whole chain of generosity. And then the final.
What's the translation of the Hebrew for pious?
Well, a chassid, I think we might have talked about this several weeks ago.
I'm not sure that this does make him pious, does it? The fact that he is willing to give money and get other people to give money might make him a terribly good person, but pious implies something slightly different.
Well, we said a few weeks ago that a chassid doesn't mean someone with the curly whirlies and the long coat. A chassid is someone who goes above and beyond. So,
and this would come into the same.
Yes, you're going above and beyond. Not only are you giving, which is incredibly charitable, but you're going out of your way to be able to widen the net and encourage others to give. So, we don't have to do these things necessarily. We can talk about what it means to give tzedakah in a moment, but fundamentally, you've been approached for money, and you give some money. You've done what you needed to do. That was what was required. If you then take it on your own initiative to say, and I'll give you the phone number for my next door neighbour because he'll also potentially give you, that's above and beyond. That's the next level up.
That doesn't make me pious. That just makes me have a very good phone call.
Well, it makes you a chassid. Even if you don't want to give it the English word pious, it makes you a chassid.
Does it really? If a person doesn't obey all any of the other things that he should be obeying, doesn't go to shul, doesn't know whatever, the fact that he is giving his money and encouraging other people to give money, you would say makes him a chassid. It
doesn't make you a Hasidic Jew. To be a Hasidic Jew, you have to have the garb, right? But in this area, in this mitzvah, you are a chassid. You are going above and beyond the call of duty in this particular area. What else you do, your relationship with God, all the rest of it, that's left to everybody's own area of.
It also doesn't describe that somebody who gives with an open heart as being his reason to give, as against the same giving with because he wants to be known that he can give money, he's got money. Both of those would be, in this sense, Hasidic.
Right.
So we're not discussing whether the reasoning behind what you're giving is for good reasons, potentially maybe because you want to be seen as, how can you give money, for bad reasons. But yet both are equally, and that's what I was having a problem with the pious bit. I don't think it makes you pious or Hasidic or anything to give money, because the amount that you give is irrelevant. Someone may only be able to give a pound coin, but to them, that's a huge amount of money. So we're not talking volume. We're talking about somebody who's giving their last pound to somebody. That's fantastic. Whereas somebody who's giving £100 or £1,000, well, if they've got, the law of diminishing returns, it doesn't matter if you've got that much, but it doesn't really matter. I just have a bit of a problem trying to use words like pious and Hasidic, describe without thinking through what their reason for doing it is.
Well, maybe the beauty of it is that it doesn't have to matter. We have our own loaded definitions of what these terms should mean, and the Mishnah is telling us that whether you're giving £1 or £100, whether you're doing it because you want to or you don't want to, if you're giving and you're encouraging others to give, it makes you a chassid. You're going above and beyond what was requested of you, and if anything, we're leveling the playing field, because how often do we encounter people or encounter situations where there's a feeling of, well, I'm never going to be able to give as much as that person. What am I doing already? And so it could be people even get demoralized because they only gave a quid or they only gave a fiver. And so as a society, we can create a situation of imbalance and inequality where people don't actually feel like they're contributing and doing anything because they're not the ones who are signing over the big checks. And actually, perhaps what we have to appreciate and understand is it's not, at the base level, it's not about how much you're giving. It's about whether you're giving.
I agree.
And it's about whether you are facilitating others to give as well, which is a great field leveler. And that's where the starting point should be. So with that in mind, please give generously to the Kol Nidre Appeal this year. What else was I going to say? But I was going to say an excellent point by you, Paul, for noticing that it's not going into the detail of the way in which a person gives, or the extent to which a person gives, or the feelings behind the person giving, but it's very. These are the midot. These are the broad strokes with which we can explore the topic of charitable donors. Joy.
Does this cover not just money, but deeds or goods or jobs or something like that? Is this just concerned with financial charity?
That is a great question. I think therefore I am.
Anything that you give in charity, certainly, sure.
It's money.
It's
money, isn't it?
No, it's not money.
No.
I think it would be anything that you are giving to somebody else to help and aid somebody else. One could translate this to the amazing Afghan refugee collection that we did.
That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah. Not only did individuals give, but they called up their mates and said, "The shul's collecting, get involved." So for that campaign, they were Hasidim as well. And again, it's not about being Hasidic Jews; it's about our attitudes to giving.
But I think Rita speaking. But in this particular one, on Pirkei Avot one, they talk about money, isn't it? The one with just the 4 types of charity.
I don't.
Differs.
No.
I think it's just as good if you talk about giving your time to somebody who needs your time. Somebody who needs to talk to you, if you're willing to give that time to them, is maybe even more valuable to that person.
Beautiful.
Than the money you might be able to give them.
And if you realise that you are not the only person who could benefit then by speaking, and then you then say, "Oh, I could put you in touch with such and such a person as well, and they'll also speak to you," that would be the parallel of encouraging others to give as well.
Charity refers to anything that you give to another person. I think that is also love.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I think love comes in there as well. If you can love your neighbour, not literally, but you haven't seen my neighbour.
The Hebrew words are notnei tzedakah. Tzedakah doesn't just mean charity, but it's also about the balance of righteousness. It's about making things balanced. So anytime that you're going to be giving to create a level of balance, it can touch on any number of areas, and I'm sure love would be included. If you're giving something of yourself or encouraging others to give, then you can put whatever word or description or type of giving it is. I'm sure it would equally apply.
Just think about it.
Yeah, Rita.
Rabbi. Just when you go somewhere, there's usually a tzedakah box, which is usually to put money in, nothing else than money. It's called tzedakah box.
Yeah.
So I think we're talking here, particular, a tzedakah means money.
But then when we have a list of all of the different tzedakah organizations, or the different charities, that they're not exclusively handling money; they're providing all kinds of services. That you're right that there is a difference between tzedakah and chesed.
Yes.
Otherwise, we wouldn't say Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'Chesed. There's obviously two different concepts. Chesed is very much the giving and the kindness that one gives to others. And tzedakah is more closely associated with the giving of resources. So it doesn't have to be money. It could be clothing. It could be food. It could, there's all of these kinds of things that we could be giving. Whereas, visiting, you could look at it like this: visiting someone who is unwell in their home or in the hospital, that is chesed, but it's not tzedakah.
That's right.
So
I know. Yes, I have several instances which came to light later of people that were quite poor themselves and took casseroles round to a poor family that had none.
Yeah.
It was one of my aunts. I didn't realise that, never knew. Her son told me, there was a poor family, the husband was ill and they couldn't work and they had nothing. And she had very little herself and she used to take casseroles round for them. So that is, what is that? That's it.
It's chesed. It's a type of tzedakah as well. You're still using your money to benefit others. You had to go and buy the ingredients. So it's all coming from somewhere.
But we've got charities like the cancer.
Yeah.
So that is really a charity.
Yeah.
Obviously, people donate to that charity to make it viable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably a chesed.
It's interesting, isn't it? Maybe we'll have to have a separate session where we literally break down what is chesed, what is tzedakah, what is maaseh. Because there's the 10% that we give as well. The basic thing, I think we'll all agree, is just do it. Just give, just give, just give. A couple more things. You'll notice that it talks about 4 types of notnei tzedakah, 4 types of charity givers, but that last one is lo yitain v'lo yitnu acherim. He doesn't give and he doesn't want others to give. So why is that included in our list of charity givers? They're not givers. They're completely the opposite of givers. Should say that there's 3 types of givers, and then the other type is a completely lost cause. So there's a really lovely idea that I saw from a rabbi called Meir Shapiro, who founded the yeshiva in Lublin, and he started the Daf Yomi cycle of studying a page of Talmud each day. And he says that the person who won't give and also won't help find others is also a type of donor, because he doesn't hold you up from finding other people. You can sometimes encounter situations where you're trying to raise money and you go to someone and they're really excited and they're really up for giving, and they say, yeah, I'm going to give you, just remind me in a week or two that I've got to do it. And so you're waiting for the money to come through, and you've told all your friends or you told all your colleagues, yeah, we're going to get a big fat donation from this guy, and that's really going to set our minds at ease. And so you're waiting, a couple of weeks go, and then you never hear from the guy again. So it was great that he was really willing. It was great that he was making it out like he's going to get, but then he never gave anything. So at least when you go and ask a person, will you give? And they say, no, I'm not going to give you anything. And I also don't know anyone who can help you. At least you can close the door on that individual and not have it hanging over your head. It allows you to still go off and find other people. So even when people say no, even that could be a help to the people raising money, because at least they know that avenue is closed and that they should go and pursue a different benefactor instead. Which is amazing that you can see that even in someone's, the negative experience that you may have with someone saying no. Yeah.
Why is he a wicked man then? If that's the way you interpret it.
Well, because it's not nice to not give, and it's not nice to not encourage others. You're literally you're blocking that flow, which is not a nice thing to do. And again, it's not necessarily categorically defining this person as a Rasha and everyone has to steer clear of him and all the rest of it. But vis-a-vis this particular midah, they've got a lot of work to do on that particular character trait and that particular dimension of their personality. So
my book has a different explanation from the best. I won't read all of it, it's too long, but in the last line it says, the uncharitable man is the chair upon which the charitable one sits, or the hand which raises up the uncharitable. In other words, he has got a lot of explanations. What he's trying to say is, if you didn't have the dark, you couldn't see the light, so you see the contrast.
Okay. So we can only know what it means to be a giver if we also understand what it means to not be a giver.
If we can see a non-giver to compare.
Mm-hmm.
He said that's why that is included, because it's not like as we said, it's not charitable at all.
Interesting.
He said light is not, light's known to exist because there is darkness. Yeah. Sorry.
Don't you have to be a bit careful before you call and make a decision that particular person is wicked? You can't possibly know how deep that person's pocket is. To go to someone and say, I'd like a donation for that, maybe the chap would love to give a donation, but he hasn't got enough money to put food on his own table.
So excellent.
Call him wicked.
But he used the word desire, which is wanting. He doesn't want to give, not that he can't give. That's how I see that.
Yeah. So I wanted to come to this at the end. So it's you're lining us up perfectly, Paul, for what I wanted to say over here.
Send the money over.
Yeah.
Send the money over.
But it's an excellent and astute point from you again. That's two excellent points in 5782, Paul. So long way to continue. But yeah, a person who doesn't give tzedakah because they can't do it, there's nothing wrong with that. The mitzvah of giving tzedakah only rests upon a person who is able to do it, who is able to give something. There are a whole host of laws and halachot when it comes to giving tzedakah. I've started exploring them on a Saturday evening in our little slot between Mincha and Mariv at the end of Shabbat. That it's an amazingly important mitzvah of giving tzedakah, and if one is able to, then one really should. And if they choose not to, then it's actually not a good thing. If you are in the financial position to give to an extremely worthy cause and you purposely withhold that money,
absolutely,
then it could be that you are overstepping and violating a mitzvah in the Torah, a biblical commandment.
Absolutely.
So where we're placing ourselves is at a point where you've got enough in the bank to give, you've got a worthy recipient right in front of you, and you are purposely withholding that money from giving. I've actually got a piece, I think it's in this week's Jewish Chronicle, about the importance and the mitzvah of tzedakah. There's so much to say about tzedakah. There's so much blessing in store, not just for the one who receives, but for the one who gives as well. It's the one mitzvah that we are taught that we're allowed to test Hashem to prove that we are really going to be better off by giving our money away. It's so counterintuitive, especially in society today, to think that we can be better off by giving things away. But actually, Hashem promises us that we will never lose out from giving tzedakah and from giving tzedakah to worthy causes. The blessing will return back to us many, many, many fold. And he even says, you don't believe me? Put me to the test. Give that money away, and then we'll see if you're better off or not. He gives us this divine guarantee. It's the best business deal ever for Jewish people to be able to give money away to tzedakah. There's a rabbi, I think he lived in the 19th century, Rav Chaim of Volozhin, who says that it's the spiritual equivalent of salting Salting what? Salting something. It's like you're salting your money. When we salt and preserve things, so we're actually preserving them because it's going to come back to us better in the future. We're preserving something. We think when we're giving it away, that's it, the money's gone. But actually, it's like what do you do? Like tanning hides, or preserving food, pickling food, or whatever it is. You're making it better for the future. So that's the comparison for giving our tzedakah money away. Is that we're not losing it. We're salting it and preserving it so that it's better for the future. The other comparison is like planting a seed. We think when we plant a seed, we watch the process as that seed disintegrates and it rots and it disappears, and we think, oy vey, we've lost our seeds. But out of that decay comes the blossoming and comes the sprouting that becomes the plant or the tree or the flower or whatever it might be. So when we give our money away, we may think like, oh, now I'm left with less. But actually the perspective is we're left with more, because there's so many blessings that come about on account of the tzedakah that we give. And what else does it talk about? Oh, a whole host of things. Just give it away, guys. Not more than a fifth of your net income, but just give it away, and you'll see that it comes back to us, and the spiritual and physical and material benefits that we get from giving tzedakah is only advantageous. But only give it to Bushy Shore for the Kol Nidre. No, I'm joking.
Is the Prime Minister taking the extra money to give to care in the UK? Does that have something to do with this as well?
By paying our taxes, do you mean? Are we?
Yes, by paying tax. Although that has to be paid, so I suppose it doesn't come into this. But on the other hand, what he was doing, taking money to use it for care, is a really interesting. It sort of bounces off it, but it may not be the same thing. But there is something in there.
You may not be covering your 10% that we are expected to give, but I'm sure if any of our money does end up in good places, then Hashem will reward us for that as well. Why not? For all of the amount that we pay, though, it's probably only a fraction of a penny that gets that actually makes its way into one of those initiatives. So
that's the trouble.
What I find very interesting, this evil eye, but when you go to these countries, Turkey or even Israel, actually I think I got a gift here for somebody from Israel. They give you a little thing to put near your home.
The chamsa.
And
so
the Arabs have it as well.
So I think that come from Pirkei Avot. It's quite interesting.
Well, Ayin Hara exists as a Jewish concept. Whether there's a connection between what the Mishnah is driving at and the Ayin Hara that we're talking about in terms of those kind of negative spiritual forces, I couldn't say necessarily. We've seen the phrase previously as well when we talked about the rabbi who sent his 5 students out to look at what the best way of approaching life was, and one came back and said a good ear, a good eye, a good heart, and then the converse of that was an evil ear, an evil eye, and an evil heart. So again, it's not necessarily what we're talking about when we do the chamsas and all that kind of thing. But yeah, it's.
It was just very interesting that evil eye just come up in Pirkei Avot. I just find it fascinating. I even got one here.
It comes up in a few different places. I would say that if you want to tap into into that side of the evil eye, you probably need to be looking in some of the mystical Kabbalistic sources.
Kabbalah,
just give me a minute, guys. Let me turn off the recording and wish everyone a wonderful, meaningful day, and then we can schmooze before sending you on your merry way. So we'll see you next week. I don't know if we will actually. Is it Yom Kippur next Thursday? I can't remember when we're next
Thursday
on.
You'll
is
be
Yom
busy.
Kippur.
Yeah.
Yes,
You'll
next
be
Thursday
busy.
is Yom Kippur.
So we won't see you
Very
online, hopefully, on Yom Kippur. And I don't know if we'll see each other over Sukkot. Let's see. It's nice that we started again, and we'll see when the next one is.
Well, you can
In the
just put it
meantime,
online when
take
you're
care to
ready.
everyone
Yeah,
watching.
ready.
So are we
Recording
not?
stopped.
Are we not going to shul yet? Is that where you're staying? We're not ready yet.